I still remember the day Brandon and I moved into this house. You'd think after 17 years, I'd stop feeling that rush the thrill of our little perfect world. But some days, when I catch a glimpse of him across the room, the way his eyes crinkle when he laughs, I swear for a second, everything feels right again. You look tired, babe, Brandon said just last night, rubbing my feet after I came home from work. He always knows when I need that, no questions asked, it's nothing. I told him, but he just smiled and kept working his magic. How did I get so lucky? He never forgot an anniversary, never failed to bring home my favorite takeout when I had a rough day. And those daddy days, he'd take the girls on Haley and Julia so I could breathe. No one had a husband like Brandon. You're my world, he whispered once, and I believed him. I really did, but lately it's been different. The predictability that used to feel like a warm blanket is starting to feel like a cage. At dinner the other night, I caught myself counting the exact number of times he cleared his throat before speaking. The way he always double-checked the locked doors before bed. It should have been comforting, but instead, it gnawed at me. Is this all there is? Do you want to try that new Italian place Friday? He asked, breaking the silence. I nodded, forcing a smile. Sounds perfect, but inside a tiny voice whispered, is this really perfect? I never said a word, not then. I couldn't. Who complains about a husband who's the embodiment of everything a woman could want? I told myself I was just tired. Restless, maybe a little bored. That was harmless, right? Last week, my friend Sarah asked me, Courtney, how do you and Brandon still keep that spark after all these years? I laughed it off. It's not about sparks anymore. It's about knowing someone's always there. But the truth was, I missed sparks. I missed feeling alive. I often caught Brandon looking at me with that familiar warmth, but I felt like I was drifting away. Sometimes I'd watch him help the girls with their homework or make pancakes on Sunday mornings, and I'd feel a pang. Was I the same woman he married? Did I still deserve this? Courtney, you okay? He'd ask when I seemed distant. Yeah, I'd say, though it wasn't true. I was scared of what those feelings meant. Was I becoming ungrateful? Selfish? One night I found myself standing in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection as if searching for someone I used to be. I brushed my hair, tightened my shirt, trying to convince myself that I was still the woman Brandon fell for. You're beautiful, I whispered, but the voice felt hollow. I know I should have been grateful. So many women wished for what I had, but gratitude doesn't fill the emptiness that's been creeping in. It doesn't silence the restless thoughts that invade my mind when Brandon isn't looking. Remember we planned that weekend getaway for our 15th anniversary? I asked him once, trying to bridge the silence. How could I forget? Your smile made every detail worth it, he said, eyes full of love. And that was the problem. The love was still there. But I was starting to wonder if it was enough. I thought we had the perfect life, the perfect marriage. Everyone else did too. But what no one saw was the tiny cracks hidden beneath the shiny surface. Cracks I was terrified to admit were there, because if I admitted them, what would that mean for us? For me, I'm Courtney, and this was my life before everything changed, before the illusion shattered. Brandon, did you lock the back door? I asked for the third time that evening, feeling the irritation bubble up again. He sighed, eyes not. Leaving the TV screen? Yes, Courtney, twice. I forced a smile. Okay, just making sure. He shook his head, half amused, half tired. You worry too much? I didn't say anything. How could I explain that it wasn't just the door? It was everything, the routine, the sameness that pressed down on me like a weight dot later that night. As he rubbed my feet again, I tried to push the feeling away. Remember when we used to stay out late? Dancing, talking until dawn? He smiled softly. I remember. You always dragged me to those jazz clubs. I chuckled, but the laughter didn't reach my eyes. I missed that. He looked at me, concerned. What's going on, Courtney? You've been distant. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired, I guess, but I wasn't fine. I was suffocating. The perfect marriage that once felt like home was starting to feel like a prison dot at work. The days blurred together. I buried myself in meetings and deadlines. Anything to avoid the silence waiting for me at home. That's when Eric appeared. Courtney, can you look over these numbers with me? He asked, his voice casual but insistent. I hesitated. Sure. Eric, he was different. Not the typical handsome guy, but there was something in his eyes' attention, curiosity that made me feel seen. Thanks, he said, handing me a file dot as we worked side by side. I caught myself glancing at him longer than necessary. Did you want to grab coffee later? Eric asked one afternoon. I blinked. Coffee? Yeah, just to talk about the project. Okay, I said, heart pounding. During those coffees, Eric listened, really listened. He didn't just nod politely. He asked questions, remembered little details about my life. One day, as we laughed over a shared joke, I caught my reflection in the window smiling, alive. I felt guilty almost immediately. What was this? Attraction? Something more? And what did it mean for Brandon? Courtney, you look distracted, Eric said one afternoon. I bit my lip. I'm just tired. He frowned. If you ever want to talk about anything work or otherwise, I'm here. His words lingered long after the meeting ended. Back home, Brandon was the same, predictable, loving, but safe, routine. Did you lock the doors? I'd ask, yes, he'd answer. Did you check the windows? Yes, are you sure? Yes, every question, every answer, a reminder that nothing was changing. One evening, after dinner, I found myself staring at him across the table. Brandon, I started, voice trembling. Do you ever feel like we're stuck? He looked surprised. What do you mean? I don't know. Like everything's too perfect, too predictable. He laughed softly. I thought you liked predictability. I did. But now, My voice faltered. He reached for my hand. We can change things, can we? I whispered. He smiled. But I could see the doubt in his eyes. Later that week, I found myself texting Eric. Thanks for listening today. His reply was quick. Anytime. Courtney. A flutter stirred inside me, dangerous and thrilling. I told myself it was innocent. Just a friend. But every message made my heart race. One night, alone in my office, I stared at Eric's name blinking on my screen. Coffee tomorrow? I hesitated. My thumb hovered. Then I tapped send. As I lay in bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he made me feel. I loved Brandon. I really did, but I craved something more. Something new, something real. I didn't tell Brandon any of this. How could I? Would he understand? Would I understand myself? The first crack had appeared in my perfect life, and I was scared of what might come next. You look distracted at the meeting today, Eric said, his voice low as we left the conference room. I forced a smile. Just tired, I guess. He stopped, looked me in the eyes. Is it Brandon or something else? My heart raced. How could he know? It's nothing. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You can tell me, Courtney. I'm not here to judge. I swallowed, the weight of my secret pressing down harder. I don't know what you mean. He reached out, brushing a stray hair from my face. You deserve to feel alive. I pulled back suddenly. Eric, this isn't a good idea. He smiled, patient and understanding. Just a coffee. No pressure. The next day, sitting across from him in that dim cafe, I felt something I hadn't in years. Excitement. You make me feel like I'm not invisible. I confessed, biting my lip. He reached for my hand. You're not. The touch sent a jolt through me. I looked away, ashamed. Do you ever think about what this could mean? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. All the time, he admitted, but I'm not here to rush you, just to listen. His eyes held a warmth I hadn't felt from Brandon lately. I told myself it was harmless, just a moment of weakness. That I wasn't crossing any lines, but when he leaned in to brush his lips against my cheek, my breath caught. I shouldn't be doing this, I whispered. He smiled softly. Neither should I. Our stolen moments, multiplied lunch breaks, turned into long conversations. Casual touches lingered longer than necessary. One afternoon, as we sorted files in the empty office, our hands brushed. Eric. Wait, I said, heart pounding. He didn't move. Why? I'm married. He nodded, eyes sincere. So doesn't make this any less real. His honesty twisted inside me, confusing, thrilling, terrifying. I wrestled with guilt. Brandon was waiting at home, loyal and unaware, but Eric saw me, the real me beneath the roles and routines. One evening, after work, he pressed me against the wall. Tell me you want this, he breathed. I can't, I said, tears prickling. Why not? His eyes searched mine. Because I'm supposed to be loyal, he smiled sadly. Sometimes loyalty isn't enough. That night, I lay awake, replaying every word, every touch. Was I betraying everything I believed in, or was I finally waking up? Days later, I caught Brandon watching me, his gaze heavy. Are you okay? He asked. Fine, I lied, hating myself, but inside I was torn between two worlds, one safe, predictable, the other dangerous and alive. Eric's messages grew more frequent. Can't stop thinking about you. I deleted the text but kept the memory. I told myself it was just an emotional escape, a way to feel wanted. But the thrill was addicting. When Eric kissed me fully. Without hesitation, I knew I'd crossed the line. I hated myself and craved him. All at once, one morning, staring at my wedding ring, I whispered, what have I done? Eric's voice in my head said, you deserve to feel alive. Brandon's absence at work, his distracted smiles, only deepened the void. I don't want to lose you, Eric said during one secret meeting. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too, he said. But it's real. I convinced myself it was a brief escape, a moment of weakness. Until it wasn't. The moment Brandon saw my phone, everything shattered. Double quotes, Courtney. His voice was low, broken. I froze, heart pounding. Brandon, he didn't let me finish. He just stared at the screen, eyes wide, mouth barely moving. I didn't mean for you to see that. He closed the phone slowly, his hands shaking. How long? What? How long have you been seeing him? I swallowed hard. It's not what you think. Not what I think. Courtney, there's a message here. Can't wait to see you again. What else is there? Tears stung my eyes. It was a mistake. Just a moment of weakness. He looked at me like I was a stranger. A moment for 6 months. I'm sorry. My voice cracked. He turned away, swallowed a sob. Why? I wanted to scream. I was lonely. I felt invisible. He didn't answer. Just stood there, the weight of silence suffocating. Please, Brandon, let me explain. He shook his head. No. Just no. The house felt colder than ever. Haley and Julia played in the next room, unaware of the storm brewing. That night, Brandon sat at the kitchen table, silent. I sat opposite, searching for words that wouldn't come. Do you hate me? I whispered. He looked up, eyes empty. I'm hurt beyond words. I reached out, but he pulled away. Days passed with barely a word. The quiet was worse than anger. I tried to apologize. I'm so sorry, Brandon. He nodded without looking at me. Sorry doesn't fix this. I watched him watch the girls, the father they adored. How do you do it? I asked one night. Pretend everything's okay. He sighed. For them. I felt invisible in my own home. One afternoon, Brandon spoke, voice flat. I've told them you're sick. They can't know. How long can we keep pretending? As long as it takes. I cried alone, the truth settling like a stone. I ruined us, I whispered. Yeah, he said. You did. The distance grew, walls rising between us. I begged for forgiveness. I'll do anything. Anything? He asked. Yes. He looked at me, tired. You can't fix this overnight. I nodded, swallowing shame. The affair was no longer a secret, but nothing was spoken. The house became a battlefield of silence. I watched Brandon retreat into himself, and I feared I'd lost him forever. Our meeting was brutal. Eric and I sat across from each other, the silence louder than any accusation. Due to company policy, both of you are terminated effective immediately, the HR manager said coldly. Eric barely glanced at me. No apology, no regret, just a curt nod. I felt a pit open inside me. Walking out, I caught Brandon's eyes from across the lobby. His look wasn't anger, it was emptiness. Like I'd already lost him. At home. Silence was thicker than ever. Courtney. Brandon said one evening, voice barely above a whisper, I don't know if I can do this. I'm trying, I said, desperate. He shook his head. You're not the same woman I married. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back. Trust, I tried therapy. Tell me what you want, the therapist said. I want him to look at me again. I whispered. Brandon sat silently beside me, arms crossed, distant. After the session, he said nothing. Back home, I left notes, little reminders of the past, remember? Our first date. One red. Brandon glanced at it, then threw it away. I begged for forgiveness. Please, let's fight for this. He looked through me. For the kids. Haley and Julia were our fragile glue. At dinner, Brandon spoke only when they were present. Did you finish your homework, Haley? He asked. Almost, she replied, smiling. He smiled back, briefly, but when the girls left, the walls closed. In. Why won't you talk to me? I asked once. Brandon's voice was cold. Because I can't pretend anymore. I was trapped in guilt and self-loathing. Every day felt heavier. I'd catch myself watching him, hoping for a sign. Do you love me? I whispered one night. He didn't answer. I cried myself to sleep, wondering how we'd ended here. I've been thinking. I started, voice shaking as Brandon looked at me across the kitchen table. He raised an eyebrow. About what? Maybe we try something different. An open marriage. He laughed, a bitter, cold sound. Are you serious? I swallowed hard. I know it sounds crazy, but I just want to fix this. You could see other women, I'd understand. His face twisted, disgust clear. Is that really what you think this is about? That I'm jealous? That I want permission to cheat too? I bit my lip, words stuck in my throat. No, Brandon. No. His voice was sharp. I don't want an open marriage. I want a wife who respects our vows. Please, I'm trying. He leaned forward, eyes blazing. If you ever mention this again, open marriages, threesomes, anything, I'll file for divorce immediately. Brandon, wait, I'm not bluffing. His voice was deadly serious. I want my marriage back, but maybe that's impossible. I felt the room spin. So that's it, I whispered. You're done? He shook his head, pain evident. I've been done for a long time. You just didn't see it. The truth hit me like a slap. I thought I understood him, but I was wrong, so wrong. I misjudged everything, I admitted, tears stinging. He looked away. We're different people now. I watched as he started to rebuild his life quietly, methodically, without me. He spent more time at work, took weekend trips with the girls alone. I was left drowning in shame and regret. One night I found a note on the kitchen counter. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. No signature. Just cold finality. I called him, voice trembling. Brandon, please don't do this. He sighed. You broke us, Courtney. I'm just picking up the pieces. I felt hopeless, lost. How do I fix this? I asked, desperate. He was silent. I'm sorry. I whispered. That's not enough. He said, I realized forgiveness wouldn't erase betrayal. I was alone. Therapy again today. I told my best friend on the phone. Feels like I'm digging through rubble, trying to find something solid. She laughed softly. That sounds rough. It is, I admitted. But I'm starting to see myself again. Not just Brandon's wife who betrayed him. Good, she said. You deserve that. Brandon's silence at home was deafening, but at work, I buried myself deeper. Courtney, you're on fire with this project, my boss said. Approving a raise. Keep it up. I smiled, but inside it felt like a small victory, a reminder that I was more than my mistakes. One afternoon, I saw Brandon at a school event. He was with Rebecca. She laughed easily, touched his arm, and I felt a twist of jealousy I hadn't expected. Who's Rebecca? Haley asked later. I hesitated. A friend of your dad's. She seems nice. She is, I said, forcing a smile. At night, I wrestled with resentment and acceptance. Why her? I whispered to the empty room. Because she's not me. A small voice inside answered. One day, Brandon confronted me. You're different now, I nodded. I'm trying. He looked away. Good. I realized I didn't need to fight him. I needed to fight for me. I started setting boundaries. No more calls at midnight. I told Brandon firmly. He didn't argue. I found strength in saying no and reclaiming control. During therapy, I said, I want to be whole again. My therapist smiled. You will be. Bitterness still lingered, but it no longer consumed me. Instead, I felt quiet empowerment, knowing I could survive this and rise. One evening, I sent a text to Rebecca. I hope you make him happy. No reply. I smiled. That was enough. Brandon's new life was his choice. Mine was just beginning. Look at her, Brandon whispered, eyes fixed on Haley walking across the stage in her cap and gown. I nodded, my throat tight. She's beautiful. The auditorium buzzed with applause. Families cheered, tears, and smiles everywhere. We sat side by side, but the space between us felt like miles. After the ceremony, Brandon's hand brushed mine briefly. I wanted to hold on, but he pulled away. Later, back at the house, the girls talked about college plans and summer jobs. I smiled through the chatter, but inside, I was numb. Brandon cleared his throat. Courtney, there's something I need to give you. He handed me a thick envelope. I recognized the weight before I saw the label. Divorce papers. My fingers trembled. You're serious? He nodded, eyes steady but cold. I am. I've been working with a lawyer for months. I blinked, trying to steady my voice. But Haley just graduated. Julia still has 2 years. I'm giving you time, he said. Until Julia graduates, you can keep the house. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Why now? Because it's over, he said simply. I'm done pretending. Tears stung. Can't we talk? Try one more time? He shook his head. I don't trust you, Courtney. Not anymore. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. I thought back to the night he found my phone. The look in his eyes, shock, pain, disappointment that I can't forget. I'm sorry, I whispered. I never wanted to hurt you. He stood, voice steady. Actions speak louder than words. The house, once full of laughter, felt empty and cold. I looked at our wedding photos on the wall, the smiles frozen in time. I wish I could go back, I said, voice breaking. Brandon didn't answer. Later, Julia came in. Mom, is everything okay? I forced a smile. Yes, sweetie. But my heart ached. I was breaking, and they didn't even know why. That night, alone in our bedroom, I stared at the ceiling, regrets swirling. Was it worth it? I whispered into the darkness. No answer came. I sat alone in the quiet living room, the weight of everything crashing down. The silence was thick, too thick to ignore. I whispered to myself, how did I let this happen? The truth was brutal. I lied to Brandon, to Eric, and most of all, to myself. I told you I was confused, I muttered, pacing the room. But really, I was selfish. The day I met Eric, I thought he was different. Someone who saw me, not just the perfect wife, but looking back, I realized he was just a mirror for my loneliness. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to his contact. No response. No awkwardness. Just silence. Last week, I heard he got married some. Young woman, probably unaware of what came before. I whispered, good for him. But my heart ached. Brandon once asked, why did you do it? I never had a good answer. I was lonely, I told him. You were just looking for an excuse. He said, maybe he was right. I replayed our wedding vows in my head, to love and to cherish in sickness and health. I broke them all. One night, I sat in the kitchen, clutching our old photo album. I traced our smiles, the promises frozen in time. Courtney, I said aloud, you destroyed what we had. Tears fell freely. I remembered the lies, the texts. I deleted the stories I spun. I told Brandon I was sorry. But how can sorry fix trust? I sat in therapy, admitting my faults. I manipulated you. I told the therapist. She nodded gently. Acknowledgement is the first step. But guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. I wanted to rewind time, erase the mistakes, but time moved forward. Actions have consequences. Brandon didn't hate me anymore. He was indifferent. That was worse, I whispered. Into the night, I'm sorry. No answer came. Brandon, I said one night, voice barely steady. Why don't you look at me anymore? He shrugged, eyes fixed on the TV. I'm here, aren't I? That's not enough. He didn't answer. Days passed in silence. I watched him build a new life, Rebecca by his side. Laughter I'd never hear again. Do you hate me? I asked the empty room. No reply. Sometimes I fantasize about revenge, sending that one text, exposing everything. But I don't. Why? Why do you hold back? I whispered. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's fear. One afternoon, I sat with my therapist. I don't know if I can forgive him, I confessed. She nodded. And maybe you don't have to forgive him or yourself. Healing isn't linear. I thought about the nights I cried alone, the moments I wanted to scream. I want peace, I said. Then start with yourself. At home, Brandon barely acknowledges me unless the girls are around. I miss the way things were, I told him. Once, he looked away. So do I. I wonder if he means it. I'm caught between falling apart and moving forward. Sometimes hope flickers, a quiet ember I refuse to let die. I wrote in my journal, maybe I'm not broken beyond repair. Closed my eyes and breathed deeply. The future is uncertain, painful, but maybe, just maybe, there's a path to peace.